What's up, everybody? Today is a big day because it's the 25th. Not anniversary, it's the 25th episode of our podcast. And so we're excited to talk about it. We're going to rehash some of the last year and a half of what we've been talking about, what we've been doing. And we're just excited for this week in crypto and Bitcoin. So welcome to Hard Knock. Let's go. Leni, my friend, how's it going?
Andrew, how are you doing, buddy? How you been? How's your week?
Doing well. Things are good. I'm just working stiff over here and enjoying life, and it's been going good. How about yourself?
Not too bad. I mean, it is bad. You know, I think for anybody who knows that I am a big sports fan, I love all things sports. As you can tell, I'm wearing my Notre Dame Irish t-shirt. It's not football season yet, but now that the Knicks are out of the playoffs, because I think last week we talked about every week we should pick like what is the brick of the week. It has to be the Knicks.
Yeah.
They were terrible. They were so bad. I can't even explain how bad and embarrassing they were. And obviously they felt that they were bad also. I think they probably realized that they were the brick of the week, so they fired their coach.
They're the brick of the week. They sucked.
The brick of
They sucked. If you think about it from a basketball perspective, it's a really fun finals, Thunder and Pacers. From a ratings perspective, it'll probably be one of the worst that have been in 20 years, but it's going to be fun.
Yeah.
All of that
to say.
All of that to say, what about from the old crypto Bitcoin world? What do we got going on today?
From a Bitcoin perspective, right? We continue to see the pricing fluctuate. I think we were at 106 or something like that. $106,000, right? Which to me is still amazing because, and today is our 25th episode. But here's the interesting thing. I looked back at when we launched our first episode, which was September 8th, 2023. And I think you said it was like 18 months, but a little bit more than that.
Sure.
And I thought, well, it might be fun to take a trip down memory road, right? Let's go take a walk back and let's see what was going on back then to see, hey, let's kind of compare and see how we're doing. And so I thought it might be fun for you to try to take a guess. And for all of those who are watching this episode, please don't go to ChatGPT and ask this question. Okay. Do not Google this. Does anybody Google anymore? I don't even think anybody Googles anymore, but maybe they do.
It's Gemini now, right? Well, Gemini answers and then it's like a mix. I don't know. It's a whole AI deal.
Yeah, I think Gemini stinks too. But anyway, that's just my personal opinion. Okay. So, Andrew, what do you think Bitcoin was selling at on September 8th, 2023?
Well, like any answer, I like to think about context. And so I do know that 21 was peak bull market, just like 25 should be. So peak bull market goes 2013, 17, 21, 25, hopefully. And so about a year or two after that, I think we were bouncing around, if I can remember. I think it might have been like, it was low because I remember when you came to Dubai in October for Bitcoin blockchain conference, it just was like about to hit 30. So I'm guessing it was like 25,000.
Man, you're really good at this, and I keep saying that every week. You surprise. Yeah, man, you surprise me every week. But well, it wasn't 25, but you're close. I mean, that is a really, really great guess.
What was it?
It was 26,000. So
wow,
round it out.
I mean, that's pretty close.
$26,000. That's pretty close. That is
Isn't that wild? Think
Yeah,
about if you woke up tomorrow and it was 26,000. Everybody would be losing their minds. It's like the world would be ending. People would
for
be
sure.
selling their Bitcoin, right? But if you could
Yeah.
buy an entire Bitcoin for $26,000, like what a
Yes.
steal. That would just be amazing.
So think about that, right? If you bought on September 8th, 2023, you bought one Bitcoin for $26,000
Yeah.
and you didn't think about it for 18 months and you woke up and you said, "Hey, I'm kind of curious. How's my investment done?" And you
106.
see it that what other I would challenge anybody to come up with
Yeah.
any investment that they could have
Yeah.
made on that date or
Yeah.
in any 18-month period where they could see that sort of gain. Any.
For sure.
I,
For
yeah,
sure.
zero. There's nothing. Nothing. So I think that it's amazing. Now, let me ask you another question. Okay, I'm gonna.
Okay.
The other big boy on the block, little brother,
Yeah.
Ethereum. What do you think Ethereum was doing? Because everybody likes to think about you know, what are the other ones? Everybody wants the other. I don't know why. Why is
Well,
that?
grass is greener. Let
Yeah.
me ask you a question in return. What's the price of Ethereum today?
I think last I saw it, it's like 2,600, something like that.
I bet it was the same price back then.
Okay. Is that your final answer?
It seems a little high, but I'm going to go with, I'll say 2400.
Okay. So that time, September 8th, 2023, Ethereum was
Mm-hmm.
trading at $1,650.
Okay. So it's still pretty low.
Yeah. So that also ended up being a pretty good investment if you
Yeah,
put,
not really.
listen, I mean, comparatively, right?
As an
That's
ETH
like,
holder for many, many years that could have sold at 5, could have sold at 4, could have sold at
yeah,
3,
for sure.
I it's just been really disappointing.
Let me share the story of how in 2021, I think I was buying it at like $4,000.
Yeah,
Right.
that's disappointing too.
Yeah. Right. That's how this is obviously before. If I just waited until 2023 to jump in,
Yeah,
it would have been a banner year for me. If I
yeah.
waited 2022, I think it would have been a good year for me.
So I'll say
Right. So,
this, since we're talking about
yes,
this
sir.
right now. Know what
Yeah.
you're gonna buy, like, and have a
Yes.
reason behind it. I'll say this: I got into crypto, and between 2020 and 2021, altcoins, your Solanas, Avexes, and then even just ICP, and I'm trying to think of all the coins I've had, Chainlink, all of these different coins have like shot up, boom, and then go down, boom, way up. And I wasted way too much time buying this crap
Agreed.
when I should have been probably mostly between 2022 to 2024. I had about the same amount of Bitcoin, and I wasn't buying because I was like, "Oh, I already have my stack. I'll hit
Right.
it big on AVAX. I'll hit it big on ICP. I'll hit it big," and I never did. And
Right.
I just I wasted a lot of time and money just trying to hit it big on the next thing when I could have probably stacked another Bitcoin and just
Right.
didn't do it. So have a reason why you're buying stuff. If you're going to gamble, know you're going to gamble. And if you're in the long run, I actually just read this today. If you bought $2,000 worth of Bitcoin every month, let's say you're doing well, instead of like saving for retirement or whatever, or maybe you have a big enough job where you just like, oh yeah, I'll throw 2,000 a month. In the next 20 years, you could, with a compound annual growth rate, you could stack anywhere between like 1.2 and 1.6 Bitcoin, which eventually I think will be worth millions in the next 20 years. So if you started today You could do this. And it's always easy to be like, oh, I could have bought so much at 25. It's true. But if you're going to be smart, buy some Bitcoin. Don't try to hit it big on Chainlink or whatever. I bought Chainlink early. I still remember. I think it was about the same price as it is today. I bought 5 years ago. So, anyways, sorry not to watch. All these altcoins are just
No,
gonna go nuts next, but who knows? Buy the sure thing.
listen, and so yeah, buy the sure thing. And I think that what you are also pointing to is uh bit the crypto world, crypto assets, it's a new thing. Right? That's the new
Yeah.
thing. Bitcoin is the new thing. Okay, fine. And so we keep questioning and we keep saying, "Oh, this is the new thing." However, what you just outlined is a very traditional approach
It's
to
true.
wealth building, right?
Yeah.
So what you're saying is be very methodical, every month invest, right? A little bit, put a little bit away, put a little bit away, put a little bit away for retirement, right?
Yeah.
Unfortunately, what people do, and listen, I've done this also,
You're
rather
also a
than
person.
buy,
Yes.
yes, so like every month instead of buying a little bit, I go, I I I can't buy one Bitcoin, so I'm not going to do anything,
Right.
right? And that's the wrong approach. If I were to tell you, if you go talk to a financial advisor who's going to advise you for retirement, they would say take a portion. If you Dave Ramsey, take a portion, put it into your savings. Take a portion, put it into into retirement planning. Right. This is just very traditional approach and strategy. So we would say that from a Bitcoin perspective, right? Do the same. Okay.
So the moral of all that is stack Bitcoin. It's a good idea. It's not sexy. It's just putting a little more money in. And it is interesting that Bitcoin has become like the old people's crypto of, hey, this isn't exciting. It's just put a little bit at a time, extracting a little Bitcoin out. And it's not the get rich quick deal, although it will outperform every traditional network or like macro thesis there is from like a traditional finance perspective.
Yep, and that's where, like I said, it was 26 in 2023 September. It's 106. Here we are in 2025. So again, it just a very traditional approach to it. Put a little bit
Yep.
into it. Kind of, if you were going to put a little bit into your IRA, if you were going to put a little bit into your, for your retirement fund, put a little bit into Bitcoin, you should be good. You'll be happy in 10, 15, 20
I
years. Now, go ahead.
I
Go
will
for it.
say this though. I will say
Yes.
this. This is a
Tell me.
zoom in. Look at the camera. The next
Okay,
6
I'm
months
looking.
are going to be the wildest ride of crypto in the history of crypto. The next 6
That's
months.
crazy.
If you are going to have any Bitcoin, Ethereum, whatever you want to buy, I would have Bitcoin, but whatever you want to buy, it is going to get nuts in the next 6 months. Don't wait on the sideline. Make sure you have it now and enjoy the ride.
Well, there you go. Now, if you listened to us back then, you would have
You
said,
would,
"Wow, okay." So here
yep,
you go.
be doing
Listen to
good.
Andrew.
So
All right, listen to
transitioning
Andrew.
that though, like there's obviously
Okay,
a very what we would say hodl perspective of buy and forget about it. But at some point,
right.
like you're gonna want to extract some of that. Unless you're Michael
Yes.
Saylor and you're gonna die with your keys and you're just gonna not worry about it. But a lot of us at some point want to be old men and watch our grandkids run around and do that kind of deal. So how even today, like what are some ways that people maybe earn interest on crypto, try to make a living from that? What's one way that we would do that?
Okay. So I think that, and we said we talked a little bit last time, and we said that we were going to start talking about ways that you can kind of uh, take out some of your profit, how you can go about um, finding ways to reinvest where maybe the tax implications might not be or the liabilities. We can kind of figure out how to reduce that, but also how we don't touch your reserve.
Yeah.
So if you so yeah, and you don't want to eat into what you put in, right? You want to
Right.
basically live off of your profit. And so we said, okay, let's start thinking about how would we do that. Well, one of the things that I know, I'd love for us to touch on two of them today. One is collateralizing, and the second
Mm-hmm.
one is staking, right? So we
Okay.
could talk about those two, and in the
Yeah.
future, we could add a few more to those, right? So the one that I keep talking about is I want to be able to borrow against my investment.
Mm-hmm.
And then what I would really like to do is use that to reinvest it into other assets that will allow me to generate passive income,
Sure.
right? And so for example, right, I would want to borrow against my Bitcoin. There are companies that will allow you to go out and borrow against it, and you obviously have to make same payments, right? You got to pay that loan back. It's literally taking a loan, right, against your Bitcoin. And my thought is that when I get to the place where I feel comfortable that I want to do this, I want to look at real estate. I want to look at whether it's commercial or whatever it is. But I'd like to go into real estate, purchase properties.
Sure.
Right, I'm very comfortable in the real estate business in that space where I was in for years, and use that as the way to create some passive income. When you have when you take a loan, I'm not worried about my tax liabilities. Right, I'm not paying an interest on a loan, right? I'm not paying tax on a loan. And so, therefore, that's one of the ways that I know that I am looking forward to taking advantage of it. What are your
Sure.
thoughts?
Yeah. I think uh, just for a quick history lesson in crypto,
Sure,
uh,
sure.
traditionally, if you think about like even Ethereum, which is the second largest market cap crypto,
Hmm.
they a couple years ago moved from proof of work, which we've talked about before on the podcast. Bitcoin is a proof of work blockchain where computers are finding incredibly difficult mathematical equations to find the one block. They're working hard, working hard. Finally, one computer finds the block, they get the reward. Ethereum used to work in the same way. They were proof of work. Then a couple of years ago, they shifted to proof of stake. And proof of stake basically says, if we think about it simply, say you have a blockchain, you and I start a blockchain. It's called Andrew Leni coin. And we're like, okay, we have 1,000 shares each. And because we have these shares, let's like give shares to other people, they buy in. And because of this, we are validating blocks. And so we'd be like, okay, because we have, let's say, to validate, you need 32 Lenny Andrew coin. And that's what
Right.
Ethereum did. They said, hey, in order to validate, you need 32 Ethereum. And then you can stake on the network for, I think it was like 5% or something. I forget what it was. I didn't do
Yep.
it, but you would get a certain percentage. And every time you staked for like a year, 2 years, 3 years, what have you, I forget how many years it was, then you would get yield off of that. And so you're not getting US dollar, you're not getting fiat, but you were gaining extra Ethereum from that. And so if when we start Lenny Andrew coin, that sounds like a good deal. I don't want to spend a bunch of money on algorithms and all this stuff. Let's just stake it. Sound good? You in for that?
Right. Sure. Why not?
All right,
Listen,
let's
man,
do that.
wherever you go, I'll go. Yeah. All
Yeah.
right. So there's a few, there are a few coins out there or blockchains out there, right, that we could talk about. One is Ethereum. So for all of those who are watching this, I'm sure many of them are familiar with Ethereum, Cardano, Solana. These are all proof of stake, right? A couple others, Polkadot, Avalanche, right? So
Mm-hmm.
they all operate the same way. And there's a couple ways you could do it, right? You can go ahead and say that I want to be a validator, right? So therefore, I'm
Yep.
going to join the network. I'm going to be a validator myself, and it's almost like buying in, right?
Right.
And saying, "This is what I'm putting this money in. I'm in." Right? If you're a poker player, right? I'm in,
Yep.
right? And so that's kind of like one way. The other way is that you can lend it to a company that is a validator.
Right.
Right. And so there's two ways to do this. Um, One, I feel like the first one is probably more complicated, requires work on our side to do stuff, whereas the other one is you become a lender to the validator, right? And so that seems to me like if I were to do it, that's probably the way that I would do it.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and and so Ethereum requires you to be a validator.
Yeah.
Uh, it requires, yeah, I'd say requires. Um, Whereas the other ones, for example, Cardano, Solana, and all these other ones, say you can lend it, and then you can expect, hopefully, to get a return, right? Whatever that is. I think I've seen a wide range from 4% to 15%.
Right. It
I,
depends on what
you know,
you're at, and yeah, to actually be on the network, you're that validator, and so I think you can do that on Solana and Cardano, et cetera, and they get like officially a certain yield, but then there are other companies that you can stake on. And a lot of people that have been around for a few years get nervous when we talk about this kind of stuff because there was what blew up the last bull market was BlockFi, Celsius, Voyager, all these companies that were, hey, give us your Bitcoin. I did
right.
one. I did. I put an entire Bitcoin on BlockFi and Celsius, and I pulled them off weeks from when they shut their doors, and they said, "Sorry, if you gave us your Bitcoin, we don't have it anymore."
Oh my gosh,
And I got it
that's
off
so
with literally
crazy.
within like weeks. And so finally, after years, they paid out, but it's like Voyager settled like I think like 20 cents on the dollar, and you didn't get your crypto back. You got fiat, and it sucked.
That's so terrible.
So,
Wow, that's
and I
terrible.
can feel it. It's starting to get frothy again a little bit on companies that are like, oh, yeah, let's just do this. And there's guys that have been around for a few years that have PTSD. Like, no, this is a bad idea. So just be
Yeah,
careful. That's why we say not your keys, not your coins. And you do have to
yeah.
decide, is it worth the risk? And I'm not saying it's all going to repeat, but there's nothing new under the sun. So,
I and this is where you and I, for the longest time, we've tried to toe the line of how far can we go where it's a little bit risky, but I know that we tend to be a little bit more traditional in our approach, right?
mhm,
Of get to one Bitcoin,
right.
right? Putting it on a cold wallet,
Yeah.
and how much do you really trust?
Right.
Like I know that I get the XRP discussion all the time,
Hmm.
and I am reluctant to jump into the conversation when we are in marriage or in bed with the traditional banking system. Like I just tend to be like,
Right.
I think I'd like to keep this investment separate. I'd like to
Right.
keep this on the side. I
Right.
control it. It might be beneficial maybe for us to. I know way back when we did a cold wallet discussion. It might be good for us to go back and do a cold wallet discussion again,
Sure.
because even that world has changed a little bit. And I that's the other question I keep getting about cold wallets again. So it might be helpful. So
Yeah.
those of you who are out there and like, hey, what about XRP? What about all these other things? Well, think about, and there are a lot of you know opportunities, and there are a lot of coins and blockchains that you've heard of and have been around for a while, right, and have
Yeah.
value. However, as we've always said, the one that is the most consistent that you can, I think, look at generational wealth is Bitcoin. So take your Bitcoin, invest in it, get to whatever you can, stick it on a cold wallet.
Yep.
That's
Should
my
have bought
personal
more.
opinion,
I'll say this: there
right?
is, I would like, obviously when the ETFs got approved, which was January 23, excuse me, January of 24, the traditional finance people are here, and traditional finance people bring different products to the table. And so, especially as Bitcoin hits $100,000, things shift a little bit where more TradFi people are like, okay, now this is like an asset that we can actually look at. Because honestly, for most traditional finance people, if a market cap is less than $1 trillion, they're like, whatever. But when it's over and then it's 2 trillion, it's like, oh, okay, I think this thing's for real. So I want to highlight just one that I've discovered a few months ago that's called MSTY. MSTY
Yes.
is a yield max product that is marrying Bitcoin with traditional ETF. And MSTY, if you want to check it out, it's taking MicroStrategy. Okay, so it's not even, it's Bitcoin. It's a proxy product. So MicroStrategy is buying Bitcoin, selling shares, but they now have over 500,000 Bitcoin and are adding more. So what MSTY does, it's an ETF that is selling futures on MicroStrategy. So they're hoping that it goes up. They want to buy it for X amount. They want to see it keep going up. And monthly, this ETF is giving out dividends. Over the last, it's been around, I think it's 13 months, and it's given out 130% for 1 year, which is like averaging just crazy returns. So I wanted to try it because I didn't want to sell my Bitcoin. I didn't want to do all these things. But if I were to say throw some money in an ETF that is giving out dividends, I wanted to see how it worked. So a month ago, literally bought in X amount of dollars, nothing crazy, but they give out dividends every month. So I purchased a certain amount of MSTY. Literally the next day, I bought it on the last day you could buy for yield. Bought it on the last day, a day in between happened, and the next day I got yield for a month, like worth a month worth of yield. And then today they paid out again, or the yield dividend just came out how much it was. So last month it was $2.37 per share, and the shares were roughly like $24. Now it's gone down, and the shares I think are like $22,
22. It's 22.
and so it was a buck 40. It's going to be a buck 40, I think, something like that. So, but the idea is, as long as MicroStrategy does well, MSTY will keep pumping out dividends. Now, this is not a growth stock. This is a dividend stock. This is like, hey, when I'm 65 or when I'm 60 or even maybe when I'm 50 or 45, and maybe if you've made a pile of money and you're like, hey, if I just had some residual income coming in, that'd be pretty rad. Products like this are here and they're here to stay. And it's going to be wild because MicroStrategy is coming out with all kinds of different products. Like, it's literally making my head spin. I cannot keep on top of how many products MicroStrategy is coming out with. And it's just going to be more and more and more. And it's all basing off of Bitcoin, but then using traditional finance products in order to generate yield.
Yeah, if I could just jump in a little bit also regarding MSTY, because I also was researching this, man. I opened up an account as well, wanting to invest in it.
Yeah.
I was looking into it.
Yeah.
So, part of the question is, well, how do you know, will you continue to get dividends when the price goes down, right?
Uh-huh.
And the way you're getting paid out dividends based on they continue to sell right? They're for whatever the X number is, right? But they're selling these notes,
Yes.
right? And so they sell it, and with that money, they distribute dividends, whether they're
Yep.
up or down. You're going
Yep.
to get a dividend, right? Based
And they
on
say
that,
it's
right?
max yield. And so this is as high of dividend as you can get out monthly. That's the point.
Right. Right. And so that's one thing. Second thing is, you will continue to get a dividend as long as this fund is active and
Right.
running. They
Yeah.
could no, they could shut it down,
Right.
right? In the future, sometime in the future, they could say we're not doing this anymore,
Right.
right? But at that time, as just kind of reviewing what they've stated, what they're going to do is that whatever your investment is, whatever you are at that point, right, whatever it looks like, you are going to get that return to you,
Right.
right? So it's not like it's not like what you mentioned about some of those companies where you put
Yeah.
one Bitcoin
Sorry.
and then right. So wherever you're at, wherever your investment is at that point, you're going to get that return when they decide to shut that fund down,
Right.
right? And hopefully that will be
Many years.
never, never.
Well,
Right.
that's the thing
um
is that MicroStrategy holds the most Bitcoin in the world.
Correct.
If if Bitcoin continues to appreciate, which I think it will, MicroStrategy will continue to appreciate. And if you have a MicroStrategy product like MSTR, MSTY, and a few of these others, you're going to do very well. And so if you can
Right.
find a golden goose, hey, and this is not financial advice, you do your own research, all of the things.
100%.
But for me, I have to try with my own money. I got to do it for myself. And even if
Right.
that's like $10 or whatever you want to do, but I got to see how it works. And so that's what I did a month ago. And I bought some and I was like, oh, that's cool that just showed up in my account. So I bought a little more. And I would love to see what this continues to do, especially in the next 6 months, because it's going to be a wild ride.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to it. So just to really recap, so from you and I, in terms of our perspective, right? Like I know that I'm looking at collateralizing. I've been looking, as you've already jumped into, MSTY, and then
Yeah.
there's this thing that's staking out there, which people have asked about. Um, And that is, listen, that's an option. It's a
Yep.
risky option. All right. And I think we probably mapped out three options that are somewhat risky, some less, but take a look into it. Again, as you said, this is not financial advice, but these are things that are out there that are
Yeah.
definitely worth looking into, because if you've invested, you're going to want to know um, how to move forward with it. Right.
Yep.
What's the point of an investment if you can't enjoy it
Yep.
in the
For
future?
sure.
Right.
For sure.
Yeah. Man, that was pretty good, man. That's a lot of good info out there for people to think about.
Yeah. For
What do
sure.
you think? What do you think?
Yeah, I think like we're saying, the cool thing, it's June now, and halfway through the year's in just a couple weeks, and it's so fun. Like it's almost feels like Christmas this year because yeah, these fourth year blow off tops only come by once every 4 years. And just enjoy it now. Things could change. I've heard like, hey, maybe the next drawdown will only be like 30% or something, and if it gets to 200,000, what I mean, and it comes back to like 130, are we gonna cry or whatever it is? But yeah, you never know. Like that all could happen, or we could wake up tomorrow and like I said, it's like at $25,000 because COVID-2 is out and people are just losing their minds and all that. You just never know.
Uh,
Y-
we're
What
not
are
going
your
back there, bro.
what are your last thoughts?
Well, I think that if there's a great pain, we're halfway through 2025. I think it's a great opportunity right now to put some money into the market. Let's figure out how to finish strong. I'd love to be able to look back, January 1, 2026, and look back and say, hey, how did that do?
Yeah.
And so I think we're halfway through, so let's see how do we finish off our the rest of the year really strong. So if you are out there, take a look at your portfolio.
Yeah.
If you think that you're not in it enough, then take this opportunity to get into it.
Load up a
Right
little bit.
there's Yeah, just a little bit. If you're happy where you're at, then enjoy the ride,
Yeah,
right, and see what's going on. I personally think that every day is an opportunity to buy. So, but you got to measure the risk on your own. You got to figure out where you're at and where you feel comfortable with,
for
right?
sure.
But hopefully today we kind of laid out some of the long term opportunities for you, what it looks like. We took a little bit of a walk backwards and showed you that, man, if you did your 20, if you bought in 26K,
Yeah,
you would have made $80,000,
amazing.
right? In 18 months. So hopefully you do something today and then you look back in 6 months and say, man, I can't believe where we are today. So
Yep.
yeah, that's where we are.
Love it, dude. All right. We'll talk with you later.
All right, everybody. Talk to you, everyone. Bye.
Bye.